Most churches have catered to women because they've effectively been run by women. Churches in America are already female-led, okay, much to their detriment. The church is already too feminized, too soft, too focused on feelings and emotions and being welcoming and inclusive. All of that is coming from liberal women in these churches, or most of it anyway. They're the ones driving this. The more feminine the church is, the less men want to go. And the less that men want to go, the more women are in charge because there's no one else there. And then you go in and the music is very feminine music and everything about it. The message from the pastor, a very feminine message, always about welcoming and being nice and being friends. And men sit in there and they are bored to death by it. They are just bored to tears and feeling like they get nothing out of it. And they leave in droves. The women take over more. And again, continues and continues.
Hey guys, so just making this video in response to the video Matt Walsh put out. And so I just wanted to have this conversation about, I think, a problem that's happening in women's rights and this whole idea of women rising to the top and being able to do all this stuff. And just this issue of permission versus priority, right? Permission being like, what are women allowed to do? What can women do? And priority being like, what should women be focused on? So to kind of explain this problem or to make a little analogy, so just bear with me and it'll make sense. So my husband is a pilot and he's talked to me about this idea of fixation. So just for example, a pilot's flying and one of their instruments isn't reading properly or it's showing something that doesn't make sense, right? Something's wrong. So if the pilots focus on fixing this problem of the instrument that isn't reading properly, they can crash the plane, and this has happened before. Airplanes have crashed because the pilots were so focused on fixing a problem that they weren't actually flying the airplane. Right? Somebody has to be flying the plane. So this is what's happening in this area of women's rights. Women have been so focused on permission. And there may have been times, right? You could look back through history and you would say definitely there have been times when women should have some focus on this issue of permission and what they are allowed to do. But we've become so incredibly fixated on this that we want to make sure that in every situation and everything in the world that women are doing exactly the same thing as men. That if more men are in this job, women need to. We need more women scientists, more women engineers, more women pastors, more women everything, right? Because there's mostly men, so we need to have women. Or men are getting paid more, so women need to get paid more, right? All these fights that we're having that we must. Okay, most of these things women are already allowed to do, but we're still fighting just because it's not the same. We've become fixated on this and we don't have priorities, right? Priorities. What about our families? What about our spouses? What about our children? What about the next generation? What about developing communities, right? The things that make life meaningful and good. Where is our priority for that? So we just need to shift this. It's not that we can't do things. It's not that women should be unallowed to do things, but we have to learn to stop fixating on this idea and start prioritizing. Where should we be spending our time and what should we be doing? And we can see that this isn't happening because we see things like huge depression rates for women. We see things like sexual assaults on college campuses, just devastating things that are happening to women that aren't being addressed because we're so fixated on this idea of doing whatever men can do. So it's time to stop the fixation on that and learn to prioritize what we really need to be doing and what makes life meaningful and good.